writing to my mother, who I am certain would never tell a lie. I am a descendant of royalty. Supposedly, after one of my ancestors arrived in the American colonies, he offended his wife, a mere commoner who in return destroyed all the paperwork that documented his lineage. End of story. Yet from time to time, I find myself speculating about being nth in line to the throne of England. Now my aunt, on my father's side, spent a summer researching my paternal grandparents' lineage. Apparently, one of my distant grandfathers moved from Iowa from Virginia. This should be no surprise, considering my aunt is named Dixie. When I revealed this finding to one of my members of my church in New York, an elegant black African-American woman, she looked me in the eye and said, "We might be related. Everything's possible." Hear the word of the Lord, O nations, and declare to the coastlands far away. Say, he who scattered Israel will gather him, and will keep him as a shepherd a flock. In some ways, it would be easy to describe this congregation, you, as the remnant people of God, drawn, or rather called together from across our country and at times from around the world. It will certainly be a joyous occasion as we gather together for the next few months, telling our stories about the past year, whispering our concerns and fears to one another about the year to come. We will recount our losses and share our hopes for a better tomorrow. This is who we are, a transient people of God, coming and going, weaving in and out of lives separated by miles, as well as the seasons. The prophet Jeremiah, however, was thinking about a particular people who had been scattered across the known world, not by their own will, nor by need or circumstance. Rather, they were captives, separated from the land and its history that shaped their identity within the world. They longed to be reunited, not only with their loved ones, but also with the streams and valleys, the orchards and fields, the distant mountains and familiar valleys, all of which represented to them home, now merely a memory passed from one generation to the next. When I think about home, I think of my family's house on Pleasant Avenue in St. Paul Park, Minnesota. I remember how the floor sloped and the door frames stood at angles, for the central beam underlying the house had cracked long before we had settled in. I remember the elm trees that lined our property and our grief as they slowly died one by one. I remember the games we played in the yard on a summer's eve. I remember the Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas mornings, the birthday parties, and the games we played around the dining room table. That house, that small bit of land, grounded me within the world. Of course, our time in that home was nothing in comparison to the collective memories I would encounter at college. There I heard stories of sons and daughters whose families had cultivated the earth for generations. Like the Israelites, they were familiar with every stream and valley on their land. They were aware of the abundance of life that inhabited the fields and woods. They were connected to something much larger than a family farm, for they dwelled within the large movements of the land and sky. With weeping they shall come, and with consolations I will lead them back. I will let them walk by brooks of water in a straight path in which they will not stumble. As I thought about the text this morning, I wondered if we can truly understand the hope embodied in these words. The good news is not about a world to come. The good news is not about heaven or some celestial choir. The good news is about coming home. It is a reconnection, the renewal of a relationship between God's people with the land and all of its inhabitants. A renewal between God's people and the world they call home. The difficulty engaging this text is that we have become disconnected as a people from the land and sky, from each other as the children of God. As a society, we seem to have shifted away from building homes that nurture families to the purchase of investments that reflect our aspirations, what we think we could or should be. Even our lawns offer fewer opportunities for play and discovery. Transformed into cultivated gardens for display, these spaces end up lacking life and energy, and only our dogs still know what to do with them.